putting my howdy and hello, everyone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
I was
like-
on my phone.
I'm like,
I'm sorry.
that was so funny. Hi, everyone. We're back from our little hiatus. It is episode 25 of the Kids Health series. And we're going to talk today about school choice and mental health. How are you, Lawrence? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm just trying to stay focused today. As you can see, you caught me on my phone earlier.
I know we were both like, we
I'm
got
just
20
trying to
seconds.
stay locked in.
I really want to do a pony, so I'm just going to do it really quick because this
Do
is
it. Do a pony.
Okay.
I got a pony
There.
going on.
Now
right
we're ready.
Nobody can see it. It goes halfway down my back. Nobody can see it.
You know,
kids get healthy secret.
I think it's par for the course, though, just to show, because I wrapped a show, we jump on our show. You've been all over the place. We are out there hustling. We are out there being the solution, and we're walking the walk and talking the talk. So we had to check in with each other. I also had a sickness, but we had to keep checking in with each other and finding the right time to connect and get episode 25 locked in, because we are busy in our real world doing big things. So it's kind of all good stuff. So I'm really grateful for that. But I'm so appreciative of getting back together with you, especially for this topic, because it's a hot one. And it's actually making the news, really. So
absolutely is. And before we begin, let's rock and roll here, Heidi. Okay, all right. On three. Yep. A one, a two, a three. Power 25, episode 25. I cannot believe it. That 5 5s.
Five. That's pretty great, Lawrence.
I saw this old Facebook. You get the Facebook memories.
I love those.
And
I actually love those.
I chuckled because I had one from like 10 years ago where I wrote something like, I was 80% okay with it, so I gave him a high 4.
You gave that to one of your clients? Was that one of your clients?
High 4. That's an 80%.
Like, you wouldn't do that.
No. This was just, this is the way my brain works. Yeah. So I'm excited today to talk about this, Heidi, because I know it's something that it's really in your wheelhouse, and the trend continues in the way of, we're going to talk about homeschool, school choice, and mental health. If I may, let me pull up just to kind of set the stage here. Let me get a present share screen. Hello, who's back there? Is your buddy? Okay, let's go. I think it's this one. Let me see this one. Yeah, here we go. Let me see that. Okay, Heidi, I can't hear you. You're muted.
I was telling Bo to come on.
Oh, it's Bo. You're muting Bo. No, man, barking is a fun part of the show. we're not gonna. No. We embrace that. I might start barking. I'm not gonna worry about barking. Yep, that's right.
The whole town, the whole neighborhood, they're going off. I think the coyotes are coming through.
Amazing. Good. Welcome to the show, coyotes.
I'm going to turn it for a minute.
Welcome to the show. So this is Titan Partners. This is actually interesting because they're like a consulting firm, investment banking, kind of an unusual place for me to find information. But Choose to Learn 2024 uncovers 20% of U.S. K-12 parents want a new school environment for their child. What can the education system do? This is part 1 of 3. So there's just one part out right now. I posted about it on my Instagram. The thing that stood out to me was 48%. Okay, 48% of all U.S. K-12 parents fall into this, what they call open-minded segment, expressing a strong interest in pursuing a new and additional educational programs for their child. So let's go over to here. And parents worried about their kids' mental health sees the fix in new schooling options. And so right now, that is one of the high priorities that came from this report, that these issues, these mental health issues, so we can close share.
Okay.
I thought you might have been sharing my Instagram. That's okay. I think I was not seeing what was actually being shared, but we saw the partner report.
Yeah, no, I
Let me pull
just
up.
saw this part. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
so let me
report.
pull up real quick. I'm gonna switch over.
Okay.
I guess I have to do a new share.
Okay.
Oh, that's bizarre. Okay, let's try. No
Thank you,
technology.
peeps, for tuning in, by the way. We appreciate
Absolutely.
you
We
and
appreciate
we
you all. So
see
here it
you.
is. Here it is. Here's what I was yapping on about.
Hmm.
Um, so you can go to my post. It was just from yesterday.
Okay. Hmm.
And the name of the report is in the caption. It's also here, Choose to Learn 2024, but more details are in the caption. But the highlight here are that they are, parents are rethinking the kids' schooling options, and mental health becomes this big priority, more so than ever. Okay, so we can close
Okay.
share and
Okay.
dive in. So that kind of sets the tone here. What I like to dive into. Oh yes, yes. Oh.
He's like, you're still
He's
on this?
awesome. No,
Come
he's
on,
like,
I'll get you
"Mom,
soon. Yeah.
mom, really?"
There's Bobo.
Yeah, that's so cool. Um,
So sweet.
it's, you know, it's not going to we're not going back. All right. I think, like, so let's just be
Yes,
clear
yes.
about that.
That's where
There
we're
was
getting
sort
at
of
here. Yeah.
You're right.
It's
We're not going back. And when I look at these things, I mean, I've been watching these trends through time, and then obviously in the last few years with everything happened with the pandemic, um,
hmm
that really, I think, was a big alteration in perception of education.
yeah.
It exposed some of the flaws and weaknesses of the current offerings from public school. It opened up
hmm
some possibilities on the virtual side, but also I think it also offered possibilities on the homeschooling side and all of
Yeah.
these things. And
Yeah.
um, when I think of it, for many many years I've held this thought that what we see in real life, let's call it the private sector, right? Like with phones, with technology, with the way we receive information, with film editing, even, right? All of these things, it moves at a rate that for a school system to try to compete, when
Mm.
we look at a typical class setting, kids sitting in chairs and rows.
Mhm.
We've
Mhm.
touched on that before, the kind of
Mhm.
Prussian, gulag kind of a
Uh-huh.
scenario. It's not really any different than Abe Lincoln's time.
Mhm.
And we're trying to set up children for the modern world, and in trying to meet them where we're at, I think that there's a big disconnect.
Yes. I think
And
that's
within
the
the
key word, meeting them where they're at.
right,
Yeah.
and within the school system, I mean, obviously, I'm very sympathetic to teachers, administrators. They're working within the confines that they have with the rules, regulations, guidelines, and the parameters that are set up. And,
Yeah.
they got to put forward their curriculum and do it in XYZ way. But, we're seeing these big spikes in diagnoses of ADHD. So I wanted to kind of group
Mhm.
that in.
Mhm.
And what do we know about that? What is the direction a parent should take when confronted with that, diagnosis given to them? So
And
these are
yeah.
all things that love to discuss today. What's your
Okay.
quick take on on some of this stuff, Heidi?
Well, I think with being ADHD, I think it's just a new term that is, like we were saying, it gives a parent an answer. But the reality is, as everything discussed, the coloring in the foods, the screen time, like all the things that lead up to this new diagnosis, which can also just be said is your kid cannot hold their attention because of all these things, and adults too. Um, but as far as that taking into the school system, there's just this the modern public school system. It's all labeling. You're a number, a cog in the system, or you're labeled, and you're funneling money to a program in the system, instead
Right.
of exactly what you said, which means the most to me, is meeting a child where they're at. And that's where I think this new type of education systems, whether it's the homeschool route or the pods, nature school, forest school, homeschool, at home or in a center or all these other choices. I think the goal is to meet a child where they're at and have them develop their innate skills that they're born with, things, their crafts that they're good at, teaching the practical skills, teaching the basics, teaching these things to give them careers. Whereas we were been indoctrinated into a system to make us work for the man. And, there's that old mentality, got to go to war, got to go to this, go to the old mentality. And what gave us this opportunity in 2020 is a lot of parents, all that extra time everyone was online. These parents are also finding each other and they're seeing other perspectives. They're also seeing it's not so scary to take a jump like that. And that's what I want to talk about too, as far as education. There are so many ways to do it where you are not your child's main educator, and it's okay. And even if you are for a little bit, it'll be enough. You're okay. There's so many myths to leaving a system like a state-run public school system that I think families are scared to leave. There is an indoctrination of parents that they've been told, or that they say their child needs the 5-day a week. It's easier for them. They're working. And I jump in, I go, but there's little mini programs. You could have a 2-day, a 3-day. There's your
Right.
5 days. Like, you can still make it work. Are your child's needs being met, or are they just being labeled, diagnosed, and put into a system, a program? Like, I think that was a little bit everything what
Yeah, that was
you're
a
trying
lot
to
to
say.
no, this is amazing stuff, and as I'm hearing it, I'm like, "Okay, what do we wanna unpack first
I know it's a
here?"
series, people.
It
We got to make this a
Yeah,
series.
no, but what do we wanna unpack
Yeah.
first?
Well, with medically, can I chime in with that?
Sure, for
Say, what
sure.
do you think about all this diagnosing of kids?
So, I mean, when if you go to sort of the history of this, there's it starts with criteria, right? Because these are observational things. There's no single test, right? It's like, okay, are they exhibiting X number of these traits? So, not sitting still, as I said, inattention, behavioral, lashing out, emotional outburst, all these things, right? And I start breaking it down to, okay, what are some of the very real physical components that we could look at?
Mhm.
Right, so from that start, again, there's no, like, you can't just pull the kid's blood, throw it into a centrifuge, look at it in a microscope, say, "Oh, they got it." It's not how it works. So we know
Okay.
this is pretty tricky stuff. And
Mhm.
observational symptoms of behavior,
Mhm.
think about how many things can lead to a behavior.
I know. It's today's day
Physical
and age.
cause,
Mhm.
modeling after mom and dad, right? So we can get into some of
Mhm.
this. So the first piece with the
Mhm.
physical part, we do know that there are issues in the prefrontal cortex often
Okay.
of these children, right? So both in the function and the structure, even meaning literally the physical architecture can be altered.
Mhm.
Now, how does that come about? This isn't something where they're like, oh, they were born with a prefrontal cortex that was lacking ability to perform function. It's not the case. What we really see is trauma, right? So we
Mhm.
see trauma,
Yeah.
stress, right? Which
Mhm.
can manifest in a lot of ways. So that is a very real thing,
Yeah.
right? The good news is those things can be addressed, right? So on the
The root.
ecological
You can get
side,
to
the
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 root
root
of
of
the
that, right? So
problem.
that gets into connection and therapies and different things, right? Bringing that healthy communication into the home, that actually starts to heal.
Mhm.
There are supplements.
Mhm.
Usually, I would start with 2. Again, speak with your doctor. I'm gonna kind of do the little disclaimers because we don't wanna be, I'm not giving
Yeah,
medical
yeah.
advice.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, these are some things, but, if we're gonna look at what's out there, and 2 things that I like to start with, number 1 is fish oil,
Mm.
um, for a lot of
Mhm.
reasons. 1, standard American diet, we don't really wanna be eating a diet like that, but, what we do see is a lack of omega-3, or conversely, too many omega-6 in the diet, your processed foods, your snacks, your chips, all your yummy stuff, typically
Mhm.
high in omega-6 fatty acids, very low in omega-3. So we get omega-3 from fish oil, and particularly a fish oil that's biased toward a compound called DHA. And you guys
Mhm.
can remember it as like, duh, your brain will be like,
Mhm.
duh,
Uh-huh.
DHA. And that, really, really helps to actually nourish the prefrontal cortex.
Yes. We
And there
actually
is,
have an early episode. Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
That you break down all of those. So folks,
exactly.
I'll put
So
that in the links
check out
because
our
you got to
old
check that out.
episodes, guys.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gold in there.
Yeah.
Um, and then secondly, a compound called DMAE, which is actually a molecule derived from fish. And DMAE has a really interesting history. In the 70s, so there's some really interesting studies on DMAE versus Ritalin. Very favorable studies in favor of DMAE. There was a drug version that came out back then, and the FDA asked the company that manufactured this for more data. And the interesting thing was the amount of money that it would have costed for them to get the data that the FDA was asking for would have been far too much money based on the demand for what they were offering at the time, which is really interesting on many
Whoa.
levels, right? Because it means there wasn't a huge demand for this back then.
God.
That should be telling. That right
Yeah.
there should set off a light bulb,
First flag.
because what we're seeing is, okay, we can't now, in this short period of time, relatively short period of time, to try to suggest that there's some big genetic leap, in the span of just 2 generations, that somehow now these kids they're just born with some kind of dysfunction, kind of begs the question. So DMAE, fish oil are 2 things to look at. So that's that part. The next part is simply how the brain works when it's doing different tasks. And there's actually a clip, I think you might have seen it on my Instagram. It was from a few months back, where they have a video of child in the chair,
Oh,
moving
yeah.
around. Right?
The antsiness.
Right. And it turns out, in a pretty significant amount of children, what they actually did to test this was they had the children watching Star Wars, right? They had them playing a video game, and then they had them doing math, and they were observing their physicality in the chair with a hidden camera. And they're sitting perfectly still watching Star Wars. They're sitting perfectly still playing their game. During the math examination, it's this kind of stuff. And we go, oh, but no, that's not what that is. And what the research discovered is, and it actually had less to do, there's a component of interest, right? Child is interested in the game, child is interested. There's a component of that. But
Sure.
even beyond that, it's a entirely different way that the brain is working in those scenarios. And
Totally.
for many kids, they need to move if they're problem
Yes.
solving or different things.
Thank you for
So
saying
they're doing what is expected.
Exactly. Can I interject too?
Yes,
Also, you
please.
don't know what happened to them during the math. How is the math being taught to them? Who is the educator? There's so many factors to this, because my mom to this day is traumatized by math. She had a math nun that hit her. Like, she won't do math. But then, when my class, we're doing bean bags, we're physical, we're moving, we're tugging, they want to do math. They're like, do another problem. It just depends how you teach it.
So
Okay,
you
go ahead.
have that factor as well, right?
Yeah.
And so all of these things, and where is it said that anybody needs to be still doing anything? Like, I mean, into some level of like saying, what are we actually saying here? And what is that actually impacting them learning or not? Now, the next piece of it, I think the next major piece, again, there's probably like 10 subsets in each of these, but the third and final one I want to hit on is a simple idea of just how the brain is getting calibrated, right? Like, how are you taking in information? I've brought this up before, where I use the movie The Godfather as an example. The Godfather was a classic movie. Heidi, when you and I were growing up, it was kind of like we all knew, like, The Godfather was this epic movie.
Yeah.
And, I think I was like 14 maybe when I watched it. I
Oh,
watched it. I sat through it. I liked it. It was a great movie. It would be very difficult for a 14-year-old. In fact, it was a friend of mine. It's where I kind of got this idea to talk about The Godfather, because it was actually that movie. He recommended it to his boy, his 15, 16-year-old son. he got back to him and said, "Dad, this is just like it's so slow. It's so boring.
Oh,
It's so
I know.
slow." And
Yeah.
that's where we get into the calibration, the editing style. All day long, children are watching reels and clips and TikTok videos and short form content and even the longer form content that they're watching. Let's say it's a movie. Look at the editing style
Right. It's
of
totally different
movies.
nowadays. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
we can't just ignore that stuff.
Right. It has to be part of a diagnosis. How much of that are
And
they watching? Yeah.
and so how do we can segue now like into the world of education
Mhm.
and into this idea of now why parents are saying, okay, mental health is driving this. This is an interesting shift happening right now.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
more and more parents are waking up to that.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and then just beyond, ADHD, right? Let's pull up the
Your
Instagram again. I don't
Instagram?
know if you
Mhm.
can pull that one up. Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
beautiful. Yeah. So um something I love to see because I kind of want to work this in here. Green spaces. Okay.
Yay!
So if we know like green spaces, so we're looking at there's a meta-analysis done. So it's basically a meta-analysis. They're doing, a paper about many, many papers, right?
Mhm.
And so, they're looking at massive amount of data, but it's linked to lower odds of depression, anxiety, dementia, schizophrenia, and ADHD, right?
Mhm.
Green
Mhm.
spaces.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Getting your hands in the dirt. Mhm.
now we're getting into, we can close that, but
Yeah.
now we're getting into this idea of environment,
Yeah.
this idea of like, you know, the space that the class could even take place in, right? You
Yeah.
familiar with
I
you
mean,
click
an
on
outdoor classroom, yeah.
that.
But, like, let's say city
You know?
class and they don't have that
Right.
offering. They can still have horticulture. We had a horticulture class. We just had pots of dirt in our room. Just something to ground, but also bringing something to life. I mean, there's an
Correct.
element of
Right.
connecting to nature that changes a child, most
Something
definitely.
powerful about it. So not
Yeah.
only in the interaction, but the little like the terpenes and things that come off of trees. We talked about that before with like forest bathing.
Yeah.
There's something really calming about nature.
Mhm.
Um, I would highly
Grounding.
recommend,
Mhm.
just as an aside, a 20-minute walk for a kid. No
Yes.
phone.
I'm so glad. Can I say something? You brought that up. We saw our little galactic Cairo man, and he told my daughter, he goes, "You haven't been getting outside enough." And her right brain and her left brain, basically her right side was way longer than her left side. And he said to calibrate it, he put her back to position or whatever. He goes, "You need to be out 20 to 30 minutes a day so your brain just can work in unison." And
Yeah.
that's the thing. All he says, just get outside. And I'm like, I was first like, Jesus, that's right. She really is the middle schooler who doesn't go out a lot, whereas my son's totally different. My class is totally different. But it will change her whole body dynamic and how her right and left hemisphere works together.
Because what is
Mhm.
mental health? When I talk about mental health, I like to talk of it as in terms of a space. We think of space like I'll ask a question. We'll do some role playing. I'll hit you with this one, Heidi. So
Uh-huh.
uh, we did not prepare this, folks. Uh, what's your favorite place to be?
With my family.
Okay, so with your family, right? So however that might be, there's no wrong answer, right? Everyone has a favorite
Okay.
place. Be the beach with your
Oh, yeah.
family. But so
Road
here's the
tripping.
question. Yeah, road
Uh-huh.
tripping, right? So here's
Uh-huh.
the question though. If you're with your family in a very happy place, like this is where you want to be. And let's
Uh-huh.
say you got a phone call with some bad news.
Okay.
Something that's just really hits hard.
Uh-huh.
Now, this is just an extreme example, but
Mhm.
suddenly now you're in this place of that you should be happy, but you're no longer really there. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
You're in
Yeah.
a new place.
Yeah.
And what I mean by place is state.
Mhm.
Conversely, you
State
could
of
be
being.
in your least favorite place, like, the DMV, you
Uh-huh.
know,
And then you get
right?
good
You could
news.
sit there, you get good news, and suddenly you're in a
Yeah.
new state, you're in a new place.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if we're talking about young minds and mental
Mhm.
health and educating and delivery of learning material, what is that barrier to entry? The barrier to entry is the state,
Their state of being,
not the
right?
state of California.
Yeah. But
the
their
state
state
of
of being.
being.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
if, in my opinion, there is nothing more powerful than prioritizing that state, because everything will start from that health. That is the
Mm,
healthy soil we start from. How do we get into a state? Get into our body, get into our breath, get outside, get in
mm,
nature,
mhm,
learn to slow things down. That's what I mean by state.
mm,
And so we're trying to kind of jam, all of this material that's on this curriculum into a group of children who
mm,
are all coming from different places. They're different home life they may have, different nutrition background. They have their own
mhm.
thing, and they're all coming into a place trying to get educated. But what state? How do we get them all
You get
primed
a
for learning and
oh.
excited about life?
Mhm. And with saying that, you get, let's say it is the public school system, they all come in that way. They want them all the same level. So it's easy to label them, drug them, get everyone to be on the same level. Where if you go to the New Earth education kind of systems, you meet everyone where they're at. And you need to be that kind of leader and way shower that can develop a lesson plan that can go for all these kinds of behaviors and attention in a way that will unify them with the empowerment and feeling of accomplishment for
Sure.
doing it. Like, I just foresee with you saying that, like, that's what some of these school systems that are failing and will fall are dealing with right now, is all these different types of kids, and all these parents now they're having to have a breath in 2020 to look and see what their children are actually doing. They're going, hey, wait, don't diagnose my kid. He's just trying to, he's not good at that subject. He wants to do this subject. I don't know. I
Yeah.
really feel like there's so much to unpack with this
Oh,
topic.
absolutely.
It makes me
Absolutely.
feel like tangents. I go on
It it
tangents.
it it is, and it's
Mhm,
it's fodder for future episodes for sure. But you
mhm,
know, um, I think this is going to be a big thing that we'll be tracking. Like I said, that report. There's a couple more um, episodes of that report coming out,
mhm.
and I'm curious to see where it is and really dig deeper into the data. I don't want to speak too soon because there's only part one of three.
Okay.
Um,
Mhm,
but what I see is just this. We're in this thing where the public school system is kind of frozen in
yeah.
time. They there's so many things that need to be done by committee. There's so many
Mhm,
things that kind of just take forever to go through. We've always done it this way. There's a lot of
mm,
established pipelines,
mhm,
and
mhm.
it just creates, and this happens in the world of dietetics as well, right? Any sort of system that's really entrenched, especially ones that rely on public money. I mean, I always
Mhm.
tell people, look at things like roads, look at things at schools. They're sort of stuck.
Yeah, the money's not
And
going where you think it's going.
when you see how
Mhm,
fast the private sector can meet the demands that are presenting, right? We're moving so quickly,
mhm,
and you can argue if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but we are. The world is
mhm.
doing what it's doing, and quite simply, I don't think that the system has the ability to be that nimble.
No, you're right. They're
We
not
we
willing to reprogram themselves. They're sticking to
there's
their ways.
too many things. There's
Yeah,
too many things that are it's just like this slow moving thing, and meanwhile, there's just
yeah.
and,
I
if we look at
yeah.
successful entrepreneurs and whatnot, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
history's filled with people that didn't get a, formal education,
Mhm.
um, and it gets to the point now where you say, "Okay, I could spend 100 grand on 4 years of college,
Mhm.
put myself into debt."
Oh,
I
yeah.
could take that half of that amount of money, maybe invest it into a business or something that I like, or even just go ahead and get out there and get educated online in a different variety of ways, or reach out to groups that are offering
Mhm.
different certifications in different areas, or
Mhm.
apprenticeships, or whatever they might be. But this new
Mhm.
generation, I mean, look, most people aspire to be some sort of influencer. That's what people want to be now,
But then you have to
um,
ask, of
but you
what?
have to have a
What's your
skill.
skill?
You
Yeah.
have to have a skill. That's exactly it. So at the end of the
Yeah.
day, the rubber's going to meet the road, and even to be a successful influencer, you've got to be an expert on something, or have
Yes.
some ability, that's unique or stand out. There's always
Mhm.
going to be that about
Yeah.
life, is that there's going to be a need for somebody that has a talent, a skill that can provide value to other people's lives.
Yeah.
And giving everybody, I mean, this idea that if we just got everybody in, if it was paid for everybody to get into college or give everybody a degree, like all things, it cheapens the value. I mean, if everybody's got it, what does it matter?
Mm. I see what you're
I mean,
saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if everybody just
Yeah.
gets it, what does it matter? It used to mean
I see.
something.
Yeah.
I mean, and we know this, they lower the bar,
Mhm.
forgetting even about college, but even at the primary level of like, we'll just get more kids to pass through. We'll just make it easier.
You know, there's so many ways of they're doing this. Mhm.
so, we have to really to think about these things. And I mean, I think one great episode that we should do, and I would love for you to carry the weight of that one. But like you touched on it, the myths of
Yes.
education, the
Big
myths
time.
of things like
Mhm.
homeschooling, because I think people have a lot of these preconceptions of, well, they won't be very social.
Oh
I mean,
god, that's the
I mean,
cheesiest one.
speak on that a little bit,
Please.
Heidi. Like,
Right now? Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Let's
that's
take a few
obscene.
minutes.
We became social when we left. Well, we were always in the Waldorf school, but
Yeah,
we I we go to a homeschool enrichment center. They go to a center 3 days a week where they are in a classroom setting, but there's also then enrichment field trips the rest of the week. Field trips, program. They're doing things that no regular school system would allow them to go in to do because of the protocols. So as far as the social, that's just hysterical. But I wanted to say something that you said as far as the old system not budging and moving really slow. What
yeah,
I see the chatter going on with the mom groups of the ones who are still in those systems, they're getting themselves sick by picketing and change your protocols and change what you're doing. And my dearest best friend, she's in her 60s. Her daughter's graduating college, but when her daughter was in grade school, this woman threw herself in that system. She was doing all the right things. She crowdfunded to redo the teacher lounge, so they had a beautiful lounge. Do you know what that private school in West LA did? This isn't even a public school system. It's a private school that was still set in their ways. The money funnels down from families, that kind of thing.
sure.
They said, take it apart. That does not follow our protocol of what should be in here. And they basically beautified it like a reality show. She was crying. She goes, I don't understand. We're trying to make things better for our children. They brought in landscaping. This is their own parents' money, and she's digging holes.
Right.
She's doing it. They took it out. This doesn't
Okay.
follow our system. She got so disgruntled with the school systems of that nature. She's like, they're never going to change. It's not about our uprising. We have to create a new system.
Yeah.
Cut to 15 years later, her daughter's graduating. Here I am into these new systems, and it's happening, and they're building. And I get DMs every week. I want to tour your place, or where can you direct me? I'm in another part of the country. Do you know somebody? Because the parents, even though they might not follow the same influencers others follow, or they've been homeschooling for years, there's a shift happening in parents going, this school is not budging. They can clearly see that children are not benefiting from this, and they just don't care. I've got to try something else, but I'm scared. And what else is there? That's the shift that's going on right now. And that's the flooding of numbers you see with homeschool, because homeschool is a very broad
Sure.
title. Some kids, sure, you can watch 2020 and Dateline and the Duggars family and things. You can see the kids at home sitting at their thing, and they never go to town, and some choose to do that. Or you see pods and groups and one room schoolhouses, or 20 room homes, or people are buying properties now with farms and buildings and literally compounds. They're creating new school systems, and that is going to replace the old. I feel it. I feel
Yeah.
those that weren't even think they were interested in it are just interested now of getting on that wagon of, I see this system failing, and I need to get off before it takes my kid down with it. That's my 2
Yeah. It's a
cents on
sinking
that.
ship.
It's a
And I
sinking
think
ship.
it speaks to the Buckminster Fuller quote. Buckminster Fuller, famous inventor, invented the geodesic dome,
Hmm.
which is amazing. By the way, we
Is that
should have been
Joshua?
living. We
Oh,
should have been living in domes instead of these sugar cubes we live in. That's a whole other story. Um,
that's another tangent.
yeah, geodesic domes, man, nothing safer.
Wow.
But his quote on, I'll just paraphrase it, was essentially, if you want to change, if you want to bring about change, it's far better to build a new system than to
Fight
spend
the
any
old.
energy trying to tear down the old.
Yeah.
If you build something new and show that
Mhm.
proof, people then will move into that if it's a better
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, what's happening. And who knows where
It's
this
exactly what's
major tipping
happening.
point's going to happen, but it will, where, if you really think about, like, in anything, whether it's, a restaurant or a brand of clothing or whatnot, when you're a consumer, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you think like the parents are like the consumers, the kids are the clients, right? And when a school system, when these schools aren't having to fight for your business, like
Mhm.
anything, right? If the public schools just have the monopoly, there's very little incentive for them to do anything to attract, your business.
Mm.
And I feel like the more options are always going to be better because those options are going to compete.
Mhm.
And eventually it's like the cream will rise to the top. And this is what's exciting across
Mhm.
all platforms, really. Whether it's media, we've decided, okay, this media has not been serving us. And forever, they had the monopoly on the information. And now everything's decentralized. And that decentralization is what's happening in every level of society. And education is just one of them.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, I'm excited where it's going to go.
Yeah.
I think that there can be, I'm mostly excited because when I see, that when I see this mental health crisis we're under, and I start to think about, okay, what is the school system's role in it? Again, because there's a lot of roles, right? We have the food
Sure.
system,
Mhm.
we've got the at-home parenting.
Mhm.
In fact, just to touch one more, let's do a quick Instagram. You're going to want to throw this one in there real quick,
Mhm.
and there'll be some more for next episode. But parenting
Yeah.
style, right? So we can
Boom.
parenting style. So all of these things.
Mhm.
Um, that little scene it just made me laugh. It's like,
La,
mom,
la, ah!
jump up and play with her, mom. I'm looking. Look at this. Come on, mom. She's
I
got
know.
energy,
Oh, it's
right?
so heartbreaking, right? I
Right.
mean,
So
it's like
it's
the whole family unit is exhausted.
right. And when we look at these takeaways, a lot of times, for my posts, just guys, I tend to put things up and just kind of lay it out there without a lot
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
because I want people to just kind of let it sit in. Sometimes, to be honest, I think I'm trolling and y'all don't realize it, because I just putting stuff out there. Like, what do you think? Um,
You're the best stroller,
but
though.
preschoolers with exuberant temperament might be at higher risk for ADHD. Well,
Oh,
I mean, go ahead and close.
oh yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's again, this goes to this bigger thing of like, what is that really? What are we really talking about here?
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
on the
And you're
spectrum
trying to
of
fit into.
excitement,
Yes. It's
why
trying to
not
fit that.
leverage exuberance and curiosity? Because one of the things was like, well, if parents have showed too much of this, that might lean their kid. But there's some benefit. Yeah, there's benefits.
Mhm.
This is what's hard for discussions in today's day and age, because people want it to be a binary answer,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
everyone starts to get siloed into these groups where it's like, well, this person has this answer for this, and we end up with all these like separate disparate things that aren't coming together holistically.
Right.
And I've tried to be that guy that says, let's look at everything, guys, and
Mhm.
realize, one is affecting the other,
Yeah.
and we can't just, if you're in a system where the doctor gets to see you for 15 minutes and the counselor gets to see you for 15 minutes only, and then maybe you do like a follow-up and maybe that's a half hour, right? Is that enough for us to
Mm.
put the finals to stamp something on a child, or
I
give them this label?
uh,
What
uh,
are we really doing right now? and
I
and
know.
have we done our meaning to bring it back to the top? Have we looked at our nutrition? have we looked at, are we getting walks in? Are we getting exercise for our little ones? Are we taking digital breaks? Are we actually doing that?
Are you doing the work? Yeah, to get
Because
these
if you're
symptoms to go
not,
down. Yeah,
and your thing is to just leap right to, let's get
the
them on the
quick.
meds.
Oh,
What are we? Did we really do our
right.
proper diligence? And
Right. And are they training the educators for that? I
for
think that's a
that,
big thing. Right. Because
for that,
that's where I feel blessed in my class of being able to meet a kid where they're at. I've been championing this story for so long, but I started the year with a boy who couldn't even make my eyes and fully fogged out on the spectrum, got kicked out everywhere. No one wanted him. We didn't label him. We didn't whatever. We welcomed him and can't even write his name. And the
Mhm,
oldest boy in class. And I can see the fog. I can see the need for detox. And I know the family we're having our parent meeting soon, and they would probably be open to discuss. I'll throw it on the table and see what they say. But it doesn't matter. The frequency, the energy, sound frequency healing, all that stuff, the work we've been doing with this child, he makes my eyes now. He takes photographs. You can see him looking at a camera. We give him tasks to do. He can't sit and do work. So he's our helper boy. And when he has that empowering task completed, he feels achieved and he lightens up and lightens up. This boy is getting full of light. And that is the shift that's happening. And that's an educator taking the time to go, I'm going to meet him where he's at and I'm going to work on the skills he has. And that's where I think our systems are failing us as well. Even my university degree, I got an early childhood education. I didn't quite learn about like Montessori or Steiner or Waldorfy
mhm,
or whatever. I felt what to do to get into that state system. And then the hours they wanted you to spend was in a state public school system. They are it's to fall in line, I feel.
mhm.
So to
It has to be that way because
yeah.
any system that's centralized like that,
Mm-hmm.
that's just gonna be the way it's gonna be, and
We
I don't pin it on, I don't think that these people that are within this,
mm-hmm.
I I I I really believe in the good of people. I think these are all well-intentioned people,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
they're in a matrix of sorts where
Yes.
how much can you do within that? And I mean, I know you
Yeah.
were in that system.
Yeah.
A good friend of ours, so I won't mention his name, but was a substitute teacher, and he was miserably failed by the system, because
Mm.
God forbid he tried to buck it a little bit, and
How
it's a long
oh
story, but I've
yeah.
seen that firsthand of people that are really
Yeah.
close to me and going, man, if
They don't
someone like
yeah.
that can't,
Right.
with all
Yeah,
going in
yeah.
with all the best intentions and ended up getting out of there.
Right. Plus, with health, bringing it back to just health.
Yeah.
There has been no attention to a child's development from birth till they forgot that journey a child
Mhm.
has all the way through adolescence. There is specific developmental needs that should be met in certain age, and everything is bum rush now. None of that is looked at. They're doing things that really my third graders are starting to do. They're pushing that in the state kindergarteners, and there's your stress.
Yeah.
They're developmentally, their brain is not wired to take in that information at the time.
Mm.
And even what about I've seen the x-rays of the children that are told, my baby's writing his letters at 3. I'm like, why? He should be molding dirt and like not holding
7
a
years old,
pencil.
7
Ugh.
years old
Mhm.
is that benchmark age, right?
Yes.
7.
Yes. Thank
So
you.
so and this is we can look at Finland for this. It's very
Yeah.
clear,
Yeah.
very clear.
Finland. Just watch. Yeah. Yeah.
And,
And Steiners. Yeah.
in it what they do over there, and it's
Mhm.
wildly successful. It's
Mhm.
there's a and those early years before age 7,
Mhm.
they're wanting the idea is to cultivate the natural curiosity,
Mhm.
allow children to explore,
Mhm.
there's a lot of social emotional stuff that happens innately,
Mhm.
that if they are like having to look down at
Mhm.
material, and you're treating
Mhm.
a 5 or 6-year-old like you should a 7 or 8-year-old, again, rushing it forward,
Mhm.
it's huge.
Yeah.
And they are
And then they're
missing,
labeled if they're not
and
doing
then
the
right,
right
and
thing.
they were
Yeah.
not served correctly by the system, and then they get they get the
Yeah.
brunt,
I know.
right,
Are
of
you
the
all are
label.
people I
that
think
was never theirs to wear.
oh, I hope y'all are picking up what we're putting down.
You
And
smell
I'm
what I'm
sure you
cooking?
are. I know, I'm sure you are. I also think it's just a conversation that's begun.
This is a Yeti, by the way. It's not a Stanley.
Do you know what? I didn't even know what Stanleys were. This is, I think, a Yeti too.
It's a
I didn't even
Yeti,
know that
stainless
whole trend.
steel,
Stainless steel. That's where all the little kids in
no
class
lead.
too. Yeah, they have their little
But there's the other thing,
aluminum.
lead. Like, I mean, we get all the environmental stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
we we
yeah.
we 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 have to do better. So
We have to do better. We have to do better, and we have to stop
I think we're
going
at
teach
a
to show me the way, and we have to be educating ourselves to find the way, because there's so many that are even I'm running into parents now that are still like, shh, I'm just looking around at schools. They're scared to leave the system. They have families infighting because someone wants the old way, the new way. There's also just folks are matrix. You said the word matrix, but they are lost in the system that they think it has to go a certain way. And there's where you get all the myths and everything, which maybe we'll hint at next time. Keep y'all waiting. But there is a system, the matrixy thing, that they don't realize they can still perform, and their children can still have a healthy education life that will get them actually a much better trajectory of success.
yeah.
But that's my opinion, allegedly. Um, and they're just now discovering there's choices, because they are all a parent's choice.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
where the mom groups come in. That's where the communities online come in, that, when
Mhm.
people can make those leaps, when they feel more safe and secure,
Mhm.
seeing it with their own eyes, and as those communities build, because look, you shouldn't have to, be saddled with it, in a great and wonderful, perfect world, we could feel, really, really confident about sending our kids to our schools, but we're not. And then, it is tricky, because if your child's been in, a school system for X number of years, they make friends. There's a
Yeah.
lot to that, to disentangle.
Yeah.
There is a huge leap of there, and
Yeah.
social. This more than anyone, Heidi, and so do I. It's when you act courageously, and you face social ostracism from people that cared about you, and that is a very tricky thing, and not
Yeah.
everyone is cut from the cloth,
Right.
maybe, that
No
we
one. Yeah.
are.
Oh
And
yes.
I can only say that I was lucky enough to just have some heroes like my sister. I know my
Mm-hmm.
sister listens to these, but my
Aw.
sister being a real
Sweet.
hero of just courage, and
Yeah.
it's what she's been able to do. With the breast implant illness
Mm-hmm.
community, and those kind of things, of like, being willing to put your neck out. Not everybody's cut out for that, and I don't,
Not
and I'm
everybody's. Yeah, and not
that's
everyone
okay.
has
But
to do that.
we
Yeah.
gotta we kind of be the tip of the spear for those people, to kind
Yeah.
of clear the
Yeah.
brush, and so they can put
Yeah.
the machete down,
Yeah.
and
I
walk a path.
know.
We've got to blaze those trails for these people, and that's
I'm
okay.
I'm just so grateful you brought up this subject for today, because and I think we should explore it more, because your child's health is, their majority of their time in their childhood. I mean, it's play, but it's their educate time and during their education. That's part of their health journey.
Yeah.
You're talking now to an educator in a new way of doing things. And you're talking to someone who has clients who he works with that are children and families, and he works with holistic health. So this is a perfect marriage of a conversation that I feel has only just begun, but I'm going to be here to show you that it's possible, and I'm spreading the hopium, the Heidi's hopium, that it can be done, and it's already being done, and it's working. It's working
And
there. And I don't want any child to be socialized in a school that normalizes bullying. Oh, they need to get tougher and thicker skin. Someone actually said that to me. And I go, it doesn't have to be that way. It just doesn't. I don't need my child to have that situation to happen to get a thicker skin. I don't know. I'm going
no,
on more tangents, but
no, it's okay. But I'm gonna plant a little seed as
okay.
we wrap up.
Mhm.
There will be a education platform coming, from Kids Get Healthy. in the
I'm so
works
excited for you. Yeah.
while we're on this subject. So I'm just gonna plant that there now.
Yep.
A little pre-hype.
And this
Pre-hype.
isn't a one day. It's
No.
already happening.
It's already
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm
another
so happy for you.
another great talk, Heidi. We'll
Yay.
continue this. I'm gonna follow
Okay.
this report on school choice.
Mhm.
I think we should make this a little series and a little detour and spend some time on this, because I appreciate your feedback and input, being there on the front lines with that. And again,
Thank you.
we're like two sides of the same coin. And
Yeah.
like what you said, the amount of time that a child is spending day to day with their educators, whoever their educators may be, that's a huge chunk of the day.
Yes. And the
And
actual learning time is small.
right,
It's enrichment and practical skills.
right.
And yeah.
So
And I
these
really
are,
want to talk more about that.
and of course I'm involved in, we can eventually, you can bring in Rainbow Chefs and what we're doing to using kind of
Yes.
like using culinary arts to teach life skills beyond that, using it to demonstrate, science and English and comprehension and even history and all these things.
Mhm.
Because look, food's going to show up day in and day out. So it's so
Mhm.
central to our lives, like using food as a vehicle, exploring culture that way. There's
Mhm.
so many different avenues that food brings people together.
Mhm.
It's a huge opportunity for learning and for, again, food is information, for putting that wonderful information into our bodies and receive that gift.
Oh,
So
we're
many
doing
things.
cooking segments. We do our liquid measurements, our linear measurements. We're doing things. And with cooking, cooking is always involved with those
Yeah,
types of, that's where you get your academics, people. It's so
that's it.
exciting. It's so exciting. Good job, Lawrence. Thank you
Thank
everybody
you,
for
Heidi.
checking in. We're gonna see you in 2 weeks. And we're thankful for the viewers that are here. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We are selflessly sharing our time, and it's an honor to do so. But the more the merrier. So spread the word. And Lawrence, I wish you a wonderful, successful week. I know you have incredible projects. You're twirling plates right now. So keep it
Yeah,
up.
I'm hearing one in the back. I want to make sure it doesn't fall.
You got to get to it. We're going to close on the Kids Get Healthy trailer. So please, Lawrence at kidsgethealthy.com. You can get to www.kidsgethealthy.com. And shout out to Rainbow Chefs Academy
And
as
you can find
well.
me on Instagram, Kids Get Healthy USA.
Kids Get Healthy USA. Yes.
Yeah, and if
I'll
you're
put all
out
those
there, and
links
if you're the
below.
Kids Get Healthy Instagram that you've been
Here we go.
squatting and not using,
I
give up
know.
your damn name. Kids Get Healthy USA. So that's what we're doing.
Awesome. There we go.
All right.
All right, everyone. Have a beautiful week, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.